finishing this podcast before we pop out of existence. Hello, this is your host to the Nen Show, Craftsdwarf, here with my co-host Mathwiz. Say hello, Mathwiz.
We're here talking about
Oh no! The time shenanigans have popped Mathwiz out of existence. She doesn't exist anymore. I don't know. Okay, maybe if you haven't seen the second Gintama movie lately, you'll have or at all, you won't know what the fuck we're talking about. But we just watched it like yesterday, so it's kind of fresh in our minds, I guess. Okay, Mathwiz, come back to this timeline. We need to talk about Gintama.
Only my glasses teleported. How unfortunate.
Well, luckily you don't need to see to talk. So anyway, comments. Did you have any comments to respond to?
Yes. There was, there were like, Max Musterman had like a bunch of comments in the one comment. I don't know if this was like edited in afterwards, because I remember like reading this comment a little while back, and then like I just got back to it a couple minutes ago, and I'm like, I don't remember this here. But it's the whole thing about, like I made a comment in the Hunter x Hunter Nen show about the one Chimera ant that has like a name change, and it's like, oh, trans icon. But then like there's actually like a tying that into the monkey and Kyubey thing, and how
I also wanted to comment on that.
That was a neat observation.
Yeah. Right, with how it is interesting that specifically Kyubey is the character involved in this arc about like where like names and identity is part of like the conflict. So yeah, I didn't think about it like that then, but yeah, that was neat. The other comment, because I also wanted to respond to that one because it was interesting. And that specific part too, like there was other stuff in the comment, but that was also the one I focused in on. So why do we both respond to comments if we always have the same one? No, I don't know. No, it's not always true. I just like thought about it. I was like, the other one, I guess we've talked about this one before, but Mr. Grem kind of asks about like how we feel about like the binging it versus potentially watching it like at a slower pace or reading it rather weekly. Because you this reading more so than maybe some of the other ones, or even parts of Kinnikuman, like you struggled with a bit, right? Or
yeah, because it's I talked about this on one of my words. I popped out of existence there. My brain teleported. But yeah. Shoot, where was I going with that?
The streams and Gintama.
Oh yeah. Because like Gintama takes up like a good chunk of
yes.
Because I'm slow to read it, and so I have to like spread it out and stuff. And it's like it has become like it has been such a presence in my life over the course of this podcast that it's like I'm definitely getting worn down and getting sick of it. Not to say that like it's not still doing interesting things, but it's like.
Well, it's like an unfortunate storm because, one, you're already slower to read manga in the first place. Like we talked about how, like, I still spend way less time on a Gintama volume than you, even if I also spend, like, twice as long as I would spend on another given a volume of any other given series, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then, also because it's, like, not... Like, even though we discuss a bunch of chapters, the discussions aren't that long, so in order to, like, balance it out, we have to do more chapters to have a longer discussion and also shorten the time we were reading it. But that also means you're reading more Gintama, which kind of defeats the point. But it's like, so you're reading more Gintama, but also the end goal is to have read less Gintama over a shorter period of time. So it's like you're ripping off the Band-Aid, but it's like, again, this is the longest series that we're going to have finished on the Nen Show. The only series that longer that we've read more of, it being One Piece, though Naruto did have more episodes, even though it's like a few less volumes. So it's like, and then of course the structure of the series is very different than what we're used to discussing. Which like, which is kind of what the comment, Mr. Grem's comment was getting at, because it is kind of like the way it is very almost episodic, and the arcs don't last more than 10 chapters. Really, like I really noticed it this volume, but there's just a lot of volumes that kind of like they start with some like slice of life stuff, and then it ends with an arc, right? Or not, I say slice of life, just some more, I meant more like episodic comedy stuff, and then it like starts an arc somewhere in there, and then it ends the volume on the arc. Like, I feel like that happened like 3 or 4 times out of the 7 or so volumes that I read for this one. And so I just noticed that more. And see, but like, to go back, like, to use the anime example, I think here's the comparison I want to make, because I recently read all of Kimetsu no Yaiba, and I liked it. And to compare like how the difference in structure maybe affects the reading is like, okay, let's say if you like Kimetsu no Yaiba or you dislike Kimetsu no Yaiba, I think the best experience is just binging it, right? Like either way, because it's just a story that, it flows like like a third of the series is just the last arc. Like it's so it just goes, right? It's faster to read. I would read a volume in like, 20 minutes or so, like normal. Where Gintama, it doesn't have that sort of, because it's very wordy. It doesn't have like long arcs. So it's like, so if you like Gintama, I think it's whether you binge it or you take a while to watch it, it's going to be fine either way because you like it, right? It doesn't matter. But if you don't like it, then like binging it becomes a problem. And I don't know, like, well, I started watching it one episode a day, and I still wasn't super into it. Like, I don't know if I watched it now, maybe I'd be fine, but I have no idea. So, I don't know. I was just thinking about it, and wondering if, like, it's like, because he's bringing up the method of reading, because it's like, I guess you're binging it, but you're also not, because you're only, like, reading it every, like, 2 weeks, for, like, a week, but still.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the thing is that, like, if you didn't have to read it for a podcast, you'd be done. You'd have dropped it, right? Or you wouldn't have gotten this far. I would think.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. Would I have dropped it, or I definitely would have been reading it slower. When I have moments where I think it was it in the same comment where they talked about how like like finishing, also like stopping to process what you just read, especially for like when it's a bunch of like a collection of bite-sized little individual chapters. As far as like reading comprehension, okay. Like taking a bit of a second to just like, okay, what did this chapter do? Or, a couple of chapters and like processing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like I definitely don't do that. Mostly because like I guess my thing is like I consume so much media that I usually and I guess I'm, especially with certain things, I'm good at like processing it as I watch or read it because I take notes on stuff. So I don't leave a lot of time to think about it after the fact, like, which is why you'll notice during the Gintama one specifically, like, I'll realize stuff about it during the discussion. Like, that happens with everything. But with Gintama, I feel like there's just more, like, examples, like the one chapter, the dentist one, right? Where, like, I read it and I was like, that was weird. And then we talked about it and it's like, oh, hey, no, there is stuff going on here that if I just thought about it afterwards, maybe I would have gotten it. But instead, like, I guess why would I think about it afterwards when I'm already reading? Well, I think that like I should just be reading more, right? Because I have like fucking 50 more chapters to go.
Well, I think that's also kind of been the case with me, where it's like I might read a section of a story and not really get it, or not have much of a take, or have like a vague idea of what it's doing, and then when we talk about it and like look over it again, it's like, oh, okay, here are some things that I didn't notice.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I guess like. Because I know, and then sometimes, like, if I'm just not into the arc, like, I just want it to be over. And part of that might be because, like in this case, I would say this reading is maybe one of my least favorite readings so far. Like, maybe the discussion will make me think, like, oh yeah, that arc was good. But there were just more parts of it than usual that I'm just not into it at all. Like, there was one arc, I fell asleep twice during it.
Oh, no.
It wasn't even that long. I was just not into it at all. So it like I was, oh, that's right, I was going to open this episode with a joke about like, oh, this is the real Yoshiwara part 2. Not because it's like Red Spider, but because it's like the Yoshiwara episode. We're just not into a lot of what's going on in this reading. So, because that podcast did get some, comments because we were just not feeling it. So, and I wonder if this one's going to be the same because like, and as I understand it, there aren't many more serious arcs until like the last 4 arcs, which is like the last 4 episodes, because like there's this episode, the next reading is going to be like 65 chapters, and then after that, for the last 4 episodes, that's basically like the 4 arcs that go to the end of the series, and to my understanding, they're all serious. So like I might be wrong, but though I guess the positive thing is like, aside from the second to last reading, which is another 70 episode reading or 70 chapter reading, next one is like 65 chapters, and after that they're like 50 and 40. So it's like it'll be easier, Mathwiz. we won't have to because there's
We're
so many volumes
almost
and
there.
chapters. Yay, 2 different series. Kinnikuman Nisei is finished translating. No, it hasn't, but what if it did? Mathwiz just disconnects off Discord and the podcast is over. God, Kinnikuman, then Gintama, then back to Kinnikuman? Like, that's just, like, a personal hell, right?
It never ends.
At least we had Dasha no Joe. Like, I was about to say, like, wait, wasn't... And then before that, Soul Eater, because I was like, wait, we finished Fairy Tail, too. But, no, we didn't go from Fairy Tail to Kinnikuman to Gintama. That would have just been, like... Shonen, maybe Shonen bad, actually? Alright, anyway, let's get into the reading. So the first one had, like... So the one thing I did notice about this reading is it had, like, recurring characters who are, like... Okay, why the fuck is this character occurring of all characters? In a positive way, but also, like, what the... Like, I wouldn't expect that character to return kind of thing. Like, there was one arc later on where 2 characters both returned and also were connected in a way that was, like, why? But also, like, that it was happening. Oh, it was, I don't know, interesting. But this one had the guy in the prison, because last time we had the Kintoki in the prison arc, and then there was the guy with the jellyfish shoulder pads. And, but now he's, making manga with Kintoki. And, well, I don't know, the most I like, how, like, did Sorachi draw the, like, because when the guy in prison draws, the girls are, like, actually cute, and I'm like, even when they have the dumb shoulder pad things, and I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Who drew that? Because it like, looks so different from the normal, like, art style. So I was just curious, and, did you have any thoughts on the chapter?
Not really.
Did you have any thoughts on the reading? Somewhere in there.
Hopefully.
Okay. Also, I forgot what this reading, like, what the episode was, because this episode is Courtesan, and the next one is called Shinigami. So I don't know what the Shinigami arc is, but I thought it was funny that the first 2 chapters mention Shinigami, like, for the in the manga, and then after that with the lady who goes to the host clubs, she's also called a death god. And I was like, okay, which one are we in the Shinigami arc yet? Like, what? I was just confused because of knowledge I wasn't supposed to have. But yeah, what did you think about the one with the lady and the host club, if anything?
I was going to make a joke about how, like, oh man, it sure would have been interesting if Kyubey showed up during this arc.
Oh no!
Too bad that didn't happen.
Oh yeah, because I saw, that's right, you tweeted about that, where it's like, oh, that's what you tweeted. It was like, oh boy, time to read more Gintama, and then it's like walks into the ocean or slams head into the wall. That was it. Like, just. Yeah, but so I can take it you didn't like the joke of Gintoki falling under Kyubey's clothes. But no, I
don't know what you're talking about. That didn't happen.
It's not real. You reject reality and replace it with your own.
Like, I see that there's like a page like, oh, it's Skuyo talking, and then there's just like a blank white page, and then all of a sudden Kyubey's there. I don't understand.
This is like the real life version of that gag in One Piece where Zoro meets Kami for the first time, and he's like, "Oh, a mermaid! Never seen one of those before." And old lady Kokoro just like vanishes in his mind. Like, this is like a real life version of that. But yeah, I thought it was, or like, I don't know, you know, she joins in when all the antics. It's kind of similar to like kind of the stuff that kind of happens with the Shogun. But I don't know, it was nice.
I don't know if she's gonna be a recurring character, because she shows up and just like, oh, she's important, but then she leaves, and
yeah, especially since there is like some, like, this is the second time, you know, these characters, like, actually now I think about it, like, you have the 4 Devas, and then since, like, in this arc you had characters from that arc, like the host guy, we saw him in that old arc, then he came back in 4 Devas, and now he is here again getting his own like return chapter sort of, and then like later we get the blacksmith girl from Benizakura, who also hadn't shown up aside from, you know, the 4 Devas and Benizakura. So yeah, just again lots of recurring characters and stuff, which is neat. Anyway, after that we get the Shinsengumi arc that also introduces the Mimawari Gumi, and where there's like the younger brother the brother who's kind of like, regarded as trash in his family, so he gets sent to the Shinsengumi. Tetsu was his name. He's got the weird fucking anime eyes. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I don't.
Like, I was just scrolling through, I'm like, oh right, I forgot. Maybe there's a reason my brain just like dumped that out. Oh yeah, and I guess there's the running gag with the monocle guy who, like, he really likes being phone, like, text buddies with Kintoki. Like, he like forces it on him, and that kind of comes up later in the reading a couple times, because he's just like, and then of course his personality in the phone is very different from, like, because in real life, or in the, he's like very serious and stoic, and then but he on the phone he uses like lots of emojis, and he's more
yeah.
He's a dork.
I will say I was also kind of surprised that this group got introduced and then, the two characters came back again so quickly. This is kind of like the inverse of the lady who showed up, and it's like maybe she'll be important later, or maybe she'll make another cameo. But whereas these guys, it's like, they're here and they're back again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it was cool how they it was kind of neat how they come up really quickly, but also the what's her name, the girl in the Mimawari Gui. Oh, I just butchered that one. don't dwell on how I said that just then. do the Zoro thing and just bleach it from your memory. What's her name? Is it, I think it starts with an N. Why didn't I write it down? Whatever, the Mimawari girl, who she's like, I don't know, I'm because I like her stuff better later. Like, I think the first time I was like, oh, that's cute. Like, when at the end of the arc, when he's like fishing in the rubble with the donut, and she pops out of the rubble, like, that was funny. She's just like, she's like serious, and I don't know, maybe she's like an emotional tool, and she'll kind of like get her emotions from the story or something like that. Like, and I'm kind of already seeing bits of that with when she comes in later. But I don't know, I just noticed her among, like, maybe she's going to be like a more extreme version of Kyubey and Tsukiyo, where, she's kind of cut away herself to be stronger or something. I don't know. Or maybe there's stuff that's already there that I'm not picking up on.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely was some things hinted with her at the end of the other arc that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
And of course she's got like her dynamic with Sogo, because they're both people. They like to hurt people. They like to kill people. They like to slash and cut and do all the things.
Yep. But yeah, the conflict was good. Like, just a general like recognition. Like, at the end, he, because he's very classist and like, oh, you guys are just shitty nobodies who've just like got together and called yourself police. And but at the end, he's like, no, you're elite no good brats, because they managed to like, challenge him, and with unorthodox tactics and trickery and bullshit. But like, it works if it, if it's stupid and it works, and it ain't stupid, so he does recognize them, and it's cool. But then it turns out he's fucking working with Takasugi, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, he's really close to the Shogun, but also like he's in contact with the terrorist man. I'm like, okay.
And this arc also did the thing with the character who he was like, he was like an outcast in society or whatever, but it's something. I'm not going to be very good for this podcast.
Well, like, he was also like, he also kind of wanted to be recognized by his family, but like, the Shinsengumi is worth recognizing, and he's like, he was kind of like, I think he was connected with Hijikata a bit. Yeah, that's right. There was that whole thing with Hijikata's family, and he was able to sort of prevent Tetsu from becoming like him. So
I guess it is also kind of interesting now that because I was thinking about like the whole thing with like brothers and stuff, and there's another arc later that also talks about big brothers and little brothers, and there's a lot of like familial stuff in this stretch of chapters, because there was also the stuff with Kagura and the whole like father figure thing. So that was, I don't know, I guess an interesting through line.
Mm-hmm. I actually like if we were done with that arc, I like the next chapter, with the Hasagawa, sort of the Slumdog Millionaire parody, because like, Well, like, or it's like, I mean, I liked it overall. The ending was kind of like one of those, like, haha, you idiot, how dare you get invested moments. Because, like, well, like, just the first part of it was really dark. Because it's like, okay, there's this classroom, sitting by a cute girl, as Hasegawa is, like, overhearing the answer. Because he's hanging from a tree outside. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. That's
Yeah.
But yeah, then it goes through and he sort of like, gets involved with the class and the girl, and then like it, he knows them personally, and he, donated the money to help with the debt. But then nope, there's still more debt, so fuck you, idiot. Like he's still like, it definitely has a similar energy to the observation diary one, where he just like connects to some other, family and helps them, even though he's like in an even shittier position or similar shitty position. Because he's a good guy. He's just like, the universe's litter box, where he just gets shit on. So yeah, if you had any other thoughts, let me know. And if not, I'll move on.
No, I think you pretty much covered the gist of that one.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, the next one was possibly my favorite arc of the reading. Kintoki, or Gintama, rather.
Well, thank God the manga finally ended. We can stop the podcast here. Thank God.
Yeah, they even did the fucking. Yeah, they did the Joe reference. That's right, and like. Well, it was funny how they messed with like the chapter numbers and they do like he's done like he's ended the series before in a joking way, but I guess this one it's like, oh, that's also a Joe reference, which also ended that series. But like yeah, I don't know, it was fun to like see the the conflict. Well, because like he is Gintoki's a giant shithead. And so it kind of, well, maybe like, maybe it is a sort of indirect critique of, or maybe direct critique to people who's, like, what am I trying to say? He's not as moral as other like Jump characters. Like even a character like Luffy, who's like very, doesn't give a fuck, but he's still like just naturally a good person and happens to help people out. Which Kintoki does, but he's also more of a jackass, like deliberately so. So like he gets replaced by someone who's basically perfect. And
I did think it was also interesting how that that like perfection in a way, like it had its own flaws, like where so with Gintoki, there's very much like one of his character things is that he takes a lot of burdens onto himself, and he'll always try to solve things himself. And so in a sense, like I guess that being a jackass is it works sometimes to like cut people off and let him do his own thing. But where Kintoki, he he has all these connections. He's like, oh, he's the hero of the city. He's put up on this pedestal. As opposed to Gintoki, where everyone, treats him like shit because he is, he does things to deserve that sometimes. But then, like with Kintoki, he will use other people to fight his battles for him, and like he mobilizes the entire district to, like there's like this manhunt for Gintoki, and they're like, we gotta catch this guy. So it was very much like even though he does more to be like a seemingly more like upstanding person, and he has like better connections with people, it's in that sense it is also like he's worse off for that. Like he has character flaws that Gintoki doesn't.
Right, like he's he like at the end of the day he's the more immoral one, because he's like, oh, I'm doing better, but he's also like mind controlling them and cutting off their bond with someone they do care about. And like he has this desire to control everything, where Gintoki just kind of does his own thing. Like he has to be. He's not only like more perfect than Gintoki, but he has this drive to be even more like perfect. Like he wants to make Edo perfect, but which he can't do without defeating Gintoki, which is of course his downfall. But like, and I also like how they frame it, where it's like, Gintoki's like, yeah, he's not perfect, but he because he works with his friends and fights with them, like they help him be perfect basically by covering up his flaws, like the unity versus the solo, the one
I do also think that this arc is interesting in that there was the one chapter title which was like bonds that can't be broken even over 30 volumes, but then here we're 40 volumes in and the bonds were broken. That's rough, buddy.
This is very sad. And there were some other good lines that I remember, or I don't remember, that I'm trying to find rather. Oh yeah, and they even gave him his perfect manga. Like, so it's like Gintama became Kintama, and then Kintama became Montama. Like, I'm just imagining if you if you were actually just like reading this, because it would only work if you're reading it in the magazine and you're just flipping through and you stumble across Montama and you're like, what the fuck? Like, did this work to bring new readers into Gintama? Because it would have been like, they just like stumble across and like, what the fuck is this? Like, they would have recognized Gintama, but they didn't recognize this, and then they read it and then it like turns into Gintama and they're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I'm just trying to imagine like what it would have been like to stumble across this just reading it in like the actual magazine.
Yeah, and you know how the one chapter ends where it's like, you know, it does the thing again where it's like, be sure to stay tuned for the author's next serialization.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, like, it would have been fucking 10 out of 10 if Jump kind of rolled with it and like, this is Gintama's last chapter, and then he's starting that, and then it's Montama, and like they like the title, what's the word? The table of contents actually showed Montama instead of Gintama. But that probably didn't happen, but it would have been funny.
Well, I also I don't know when in the series it gets to the point where it's like, okay, the series was actually going to end, but not actually, because I know that there's a thing with that, but I don't know how late into the series that starts happening. Like, as far as like legitimately the publication was like promoting it as like, oh, we might be coming down to the end here, and then not actually, haha.
So, as I understand it, that happened in literally just the last arc, because basically here's
it only happened once?
So here's what happened with Gintama's like actually like, ending, is basically, because I think I read part of, he did a letter explaining what happened, because it makes sense to actually explain what happened when something actually like is happening, and it's not just like again, this is a series that's already ended twice now, and he started another serialization within Gintama, right? So it's like if he's gonna something actually has a problem with the manga, then he's gonna like be upfront about it. Basically what happened is, when you want to end a series, you have to like let Jump know, and you know, and when they accept it, you have about like half a year which is, you know, about 25 chapters to end the series. What happened was he didn't have, like, even though he did that, he didn't have enough time to actually finish the series. Like, he might, in other words, he would have rushed stuff. So what happened is his run in Jump did finish at that time, but the actual manga finished in a different, I think, Jump Giga, like, it finished in a different magazine, basically. So that was the fake ending and the real ending. So because I guess he would have made a joke out of it, but I don't know, because I haven't read that, obviously, but I expect we'll read it when we get to it. That's my understanding. I might be wrong, because this was what I heard like secondhand when the manga actually ended. So when was that? Like 2018, 2019, fairly recently. Yeah, so that's just as I understand it. I haven't actually read it. We'll find out for sure, but that's just my understanding as far as Gintama actually ending. Though, because as far as like fake endings go, like I know Seven Deadly Sins also did something like that, where they literally have chapters called Epilogue, and then it doesn't end and it keeps going after that, and people are not happy. But anyway, yeah. But yeah, I like the arc. I think I don't remember if I have anything else to say.
I guess I did like the stuff with oh no, what's her name, Tama, how like she and Sadaharu were like the two, you know, there was some fun little antics there with the alternate Yorizuya.
Yes, Tama becomes Kagura, and then they just put glasses on Sadaharu, and it's like, yeah, it's Shinpachi now. Right.
There was also the little moment where I don't know what significance it held, but like Tama has her little standoff with Kintoki, and like one of the things she does at the end is like she throws like the little screw, because she had that one chapter where like they were trying to get her to like do things that like she enjoyed, or have like a souvenir or something that, and I forget what it was, but like she ended up settling on the screw, and I know she threw that at Kintoki to like stop his brainwashing thing. I don't. It was just a detail I noticed, but I don't know what significance it held.
That definitely. See, I feel like that definitely would, because it's an important object being used for an important task. But I haven't thought about. I didn't notice really. See, and that's like, I guess one of the things about Gintama is that like it's so long, and there's like because it does so many episodic things and little individual stories. Like in a way, it's like bigger, right? Like there's so many characters and there's so much that like especially for us who aren't totally invested in it, we're not gonna remember all the details, and we're someone who like it's more like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, we're reading it, and no, it's not going to be a favorite manga of mine, but even then I can still kind of see like why someone else would really like it, right? Because it does have those details and like neat writing stuff, and I'm sure there's more to dig into that we're not getting to. And part of that is because like we're not super into it, and or I don't want to jinx it because I said this about Bleach, and look at me, but it's like, we're not going to make 20 Gintama videos. I guess that's Alexander's job, but he won't read manga. No, and they're still waiting for the anime to end. But I don't know. Maybe will I make a Gintama video? I have no idea. It depends on if it does something interesting enough to make me feel like I'll make a video. But Mathwiz is gonna make like at least 5. No. Anyway, moving on. There was a return of the one Shikigami girl from the one arc that happened. It was another Christmas one. I like the joke where that we see the one Pandemonium, the like bug girl who has like the cute face, and Shinpachi like simps over her, and then she like gets crushed to death. Like I like that part.
Yeah, it was the one time we'll be able to read a Gintama Christmas chapter actually near Christmas. Whoa! Except the joke was it was actually more of like a Halloween themed spooky time.
That's what Nightmare Before Christmas is for. See, Nightmare Before, it's perfect. You can watch it for like 3 whole months, and it fits. Where Christmas movies you can only watch in like 1 month, and otherwise it's weird.
This whole Gintama reading was the whole podcast has been a Nightmare Before Christmas. Ha ha.
That's only funny because you hate it. I'm kidding. So anyway, the next one was the Otoshidama, which is the New Year's allowance kind of thing. Kagura, she want money, and Gintama and Kintoki want. I called her Gintama too. I can't even just like, Mathwiz called Kintoki Gintama again. Like fuck, I just did it too. And he's like coughing up blood to get out of paying her. Oh, and I did like Elizabeth wearing Takasugi's outfit.
New aesthetic character. Yeah. Takasugi's redesign. It's pretty good. So nice of him to finally join us again. It was also kind of interesting though that like we watched the movie as well during this reading, because in the movie Katsura is like dressed like Takasugi.
That's right, because he wants to destroy this world, and so he kind of I forgot about that. That's true.
You're Takasugi. Everybody's Takasugi.
Right? Well, actually, no. That's at least, you're right. If you count the movie, that's at least 3 characters who've dressed up like Takasugi. No, 4. Wait, holy shit! What's going on? Because Katsura and Elizabeth, Mado in the popularity poll arc, I think, right?
Yeah.
And then the Lolicon guy in the one gag.
Oh, that's right.
So that's 4. Why?
So what you're saying is Takasugi is the aesthetic character because he purely exists to be an aesthetic. He shows up, looks cool, people cosplay as him, and that's it.
Right. He's not your aesthetic character. He's just Gintama's like trademarked aesthetic character. Like in the narrative, he's an aesthetic character. Like, you're right, because everyone just lifts his aesthetic because he does. I don't know. He has a notable design and presence. Like whenever Takasugi shows up, it's like fuck. So that's you're right. So after that, there's the the Kotatsu joke where they're like, oh man, it's once you get in, you can't leave, and so like he does a chapter where there's like a black hole under it, and everyone gets bald.
See, I was kind of surprised when as soon as they set up that joke, I was like, oh, so, Umibozu's going to appear and, like, nothing is going to be different. But they didn't actually do that. He does show up later for a different arc, but not this one. So that was a joke I was surprised wasn't made, because it seems like the very low-hanging, go for that joke. It seems like a joke that Gintama would do. But I was incorrect.
I also like when Hasagawa comes in and he's already bald, and he didn't even he didn't even sit at the kotatsu. He's just and that's a recurring thing because he's just always getting shit on. So it's like the Monkey Hunter one where he like started playing the game and wasn't like, oh man, the aliens made me a fucking loser. Like, no, you are already a loser. And it's a running gag that's funny.
I think it was also funny that, like, when Kyubey and Otai showed up, and Kyubey's like, oh, we can finally be together as man and woman because of the bald thing. And it was like, gender. There we it's here.
Time for a 20-minute conversation. I don't have anything more to say. After that was so Yamazaki falls in love with Tama. That happened.
It was another one of those stories that it's like, oh, these characters haven't interacted yet. It's I guess in some ways it's like a little surprising that, like, but then again, Gintama has so many characters that surely some of them have yet to interact just by nature of how many characters there are.
See, what you made me realize is because obviously, like, he has to focus on, like, the characters who show up the most are, Kintoki, Shinpachi, and Kagura. So I did have a thought, like, I wonder if he's, like, will there be a volume or, like, a notable arc that doesn't have them, right? Like in One Piece you have Reverie, where it's like, here's like a small 8-chapter story where none of the main characters are there at all, right? But will Gintama have stuff like that? Like, it has little one-off chapters, but I don't think it's done anything like extended or just long periods of time without the main characters. So because there's like a joke potential there where Kintoki comes back, bitching about why he hasn't been in the manga in a while, right? Like, there's just a natural joke there that I don't know, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't.
Isn't that kind of what the movie did?
Kind of.
But also I'm realizing that, like, this reading was a good Tama stans were feasting for this reading, because there were like 2 or 3 good things that she had. I guess it was also funny how, like, she's very much this plays into the thing of the thing with her that like, she can talk to the machines, and so in that same way it kind of plays off that, like, oh, Yamazaki was feeling like he was just a cog in the machine, like his day was just he was just like, I forget the words they use.
Yeah, like, if Tama can show such affection and care to, like, a barcode reader, then like, she can show that to him, right? Like, that's the fantasy he's got. And
then that also, it does tie into the not fortune telling, but what was it? Whatever she was doing. She was being like the advice person.
Yes.
Confessional, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So it's basically just like fleshing out the fact that she's just a good girl, and she is there to, like, lift people's spirits, and she wants to help people, and she's good. So it's like, ooh, isn't it ironic that the machine is the most human of all the Gintama characters? She is most in touch with people's emotions. Yeah.
Also, I just want to say, when you said, oh, Tama fans are feasting on the treasure chapters, the page I have in Beyond was when she showed off her cooking abilities to Yamazaki by vomiting into a bowl. I was like, yes, Tama fans are feasting. Eat up. Bon appetit. Just like... Because, you can't be gap moe without a giant fucking gap between, like, the cute and wholesome stuff and whatever that is.
Isn't that just Gintama in general, though? Isn't it all gap moe?
You're right. Like, Gintoki being, like, a drunk, idiot, dope, lech piece of shit, but also, like, a cool dude is gap moe. All right, let's move on.
Is Hidoro gap moe?
He's the definition. He's on, like, you look in the dictionary, Hidoro's right there.
I did also like the little joke where Okita shows up and he's like, "Oh, I'll put in a good word for you, Yamazaki." And he does like the winking with the bloodshot eye, and Yamazaki's like, "I've never seen anybody do a bloodshot wink," or whatever.
Yeah, it was a fun couple chapters. So anyway, after that is the namesake arc for this episode of the podcast, the Courtesan of a Nation.
Oh boy, this arc.
You loved it.
The Shogun gets to do things and get shit on.
Shogun chats out arc. I've been wondering about, because we see Hime Soyo. She shows up after she was there at the first reading, right? Where she hung out with Kagura.
Yeah.
So we're talking 300 to 400 chapters since we saw her, and I've been wondering because remember she's an aristocrat, okay, what is her place in that high-ranking society? And it's she's a little sister to a character that we've seen multiple times since then with no mention of it, and because I think this is the first time she showed up again, and of course immediately she's cute and with Kagura-chan, and she shows up a couple times after that, which is also interesting. But I was here we go, getting payoff to something that happened ages ago, and that, kind of at this point, if it never came up again, I wouldn't have been surprised, but it did come up again. It was neat. And it became plot relevant, and it was, because, she was able to help him infiltrate and move around more freely, and it was cool.
It was also one of those things that I felt when she showed up again, I was like, oh yeah, that character, I remember her, but it didn't really dawn on me until it showed the the flashbacks of her, that I was like, wow, that art looks like early Gintama. It has been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Well, because I did think about that, but I forgot to mention it, because it's the art style hasn't changed a lot, but it has still changed.
Yeah.
I feel like Gintama's been one of the more consistent manga art-wise that we've read. Hold on. Kinnikuman was Kinnikuman definitely got better, though, so maybe not. Hunter x Hunter was consistent, but that's because, Togashi had already spent, years writing manga. But even Fairy Tail's art style changed. Yeah, I don't know. So Gintama's been pretty consistent, all things considered. But there's still some differences, and I just hadn't thought about or looked back to notice, I guess, until those panels. So so also as far as connecting to old things, one thing I didn't understood if it connects or not, or if it's just this happens to be the same thing. Maybe it's just supposed to be the same idea, where how Kick the Can gets involved. And if you remember, there was a chapter a while ago where there's the old guy, there was another old guy who was connected to Kick the Can, and they were playing Kick the Can to remember him, if I remember correctly. It was a while ago, so I might not. But it's I don't remember if there's any character there or that connects, or maybe if I looked at them both back to back, I'd get a better grasp of the idea there. I just remembered that, and I didn't remember it well enough to make any connections, but it did, especially with so much of this stretch of chapters, calling attention to or bringing back old characters and things so seeing this specific idea again made me just I was just thinking about it, but I didn't draw anything. So but anyway, they play Kick the Can, and Shige the Shogun gets knocked the fuck out, so they play Weekend at Bernie's, and with Kintoki puppeting him around. Well, and it's thinking back, it's funny because the character they're talking to is a serious character. He's the main antagonist for this arc, and I'm just looking back over this chapter, and it's but now here he is presumably pretending to be fooled that they're that's the actually, no, the Shogun, he's not knocked out. He's just he's sleeping with these two women or whatever. I assume he knew because the guys bust in.
Yeah.
But it's also and that was a tone whiplash when, oh fuck, the arc is starting. Okay. Where he's trying to seize power, and even the Mimigawari the Gumi, yes, them. I don't. There's an extra syllable in there, and I can't remember what the extra. I know how it starts and how it ends, but it's I don't remember the middle part. But yeah, he the Sasaki gets stabbed, and which kind of sets the girl to work with Kintoki. And yeah, it's also kind of interesting how it shakes out, because it's just very Gintoki for everything's going to like the fucking country is in an upheaval, and he basically starts a rebellion so that he can just reunite two old people, like who just and to fulfill this promise, and of course because he connects it back to the fucking Soyo Sensei, I think, right? That's a Stark, right?
I think.
Let me scroll through because yes, it was because we kind of get the the Shinsengumi finds out that Gintoki is the Shiro Yasha. He's the and like we find out more about what the Patriots were doing. You know what happened because Shoyo was only executed because he raised the Patriots, but that sort of like made it presumably made Takasugi want hate this world and want to destroy it, and Katsura also, but then Gintoki. I presume is carrying on his soul, in some way. Though maybe we'll find out more. I expect, but I don't know. It was neat to see how it all shook down. I liked at the end when the Shinsengumi ultimately allies with Gintama. Okay. I did it again. Gintoki and even the Mimi Warigumi. Okay, Mima Warigumi. And everyone allies with Kintoki, and it's cool.
I guess it was cool in that we finally get some kind of payoff to all the times of the Shogun, getting beaten up by the people of Edo, because it's like, oh, I have been with these people, I have seen their lifestyle, I have
he's made connections with them, right. He's survived with like the Shinsengumi and the snow, aside from just ordering them or being bodyguarded by them. So through making all those connections, he was able to rally everyone to stop the coup, and it was cool.
I do think this arc also I struggled with it a bit because there is a lot we go so long without getting much many details on the backstory or the world building of the series, or at least as far as the politics and what happened with the war and stuff. And then this arc is just here's a bunch of stuff coming at you right now. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I like getting this stuff because it's especially
No, I mean, more... I do like it. It's just if some of it didn't stick, I think that's
okay. Gotcha.
Part of it. Because there was a lot.
Well, because I think I was talking last time about how we've been sort of waiting for a big Gintoki flashback if we're going to get one, just to kind of frame, what we already understand about him, but more to explain why, if that is something we're going to get. Because it also ties who's our main antagonist, Takasugi, right? Or he's pretty important presence, so I expect there to be more there. But we've gotten more stuff this arc, so that's cool.
I guess I just kind of meant that they there's this faction that is trying to overthrow the emperor's position, and there's this other faction which is trying to prop up the previous shogun, and then of course there's our cast of characters, which is the Shinsengumi and the Mimawaragumi and the shogun and Gintoki's group.
Okay, I'm just gonna say I hate that you said Mimawaragumi right the first time, and after I fucked up to say it twice, and then also I've been messing up Gintoki's name, so it's what's wrong with me? How dare you be perfect? You're the Kintoki to my Gintoki. I don't know. I'm sorry.
That is a fitting dynamic because you were the one who gets the most out of the series, and I'm the one who's just let it end. I too am bringing the serialization of this podcast to a close, and there's nothing you can do to stop me.
But anyway, it ends with Takasugi kills the former shogun, which was Jesus Christ, he's pissed. That page where he's the shogun or the heavens can't judge you, but I can judge. The one who can is me, and he's just, geez, that's Takasugi being Takasugi. And they pass each other in the street, or he passes Gintoki in the street, and it's Nobume is her name, I think, or at least and yeah, because she kind of compares how Takasugi wants to destroy what was left behind. Gintoki wants to protect what was left behind, but they're both like eyes are full of sadness. So like the loss of their sensei and their grief kind of connects them. But even if they took the different paths, and I don't know. I want to see like when are they gonna have their big conflict? I don't know. Last arc, I'm waiting for it.
Did you have anything to say about Oboro, the assassin guy?
Not that I remember. I feel like I should, but I just my thoughts aren't there right now. Yeah, I don't have any notes on Oboro at all, but he'll come up again, so hopefully I'll remember enough from this time to say something next time.
I guess it is also kind of interesting that the whole time I'm waiting for, okay, they're doing the whole this was a very interesting way to do the whole political upheaval, because we have multiple other characters who like Takasugi only shows up at the end. Katsura's not even here. So like this was a very interesting way to do it, which I guess is supposed to be like like Takasugi wants to destroy things, and then I guess Katsura's perspective was he probably wouldn't have been able to be on the same terms as the Shogun, or I don't know, like there's probably a reason that those two characters didn't play like a major role in this arc, even though it is like part of their main objective. They have different objectives, but like the whole like anti-establishment sort of thing is part of that objective.
Yeah. I feel like I should have something more to add on it, but my brain isn't coming to something right now, because like I guess, well, because you mentioned that they did flesh out some of the politics of and I guess like by establishing the government side of things, like when they do come to odds with the Joy rebels, then we'll have, because I think we already like understand Takasugi and his group, like because we got the chapters last time with the pirate where took over the pirates and got Kamui, and so this chapter is like the reverse of that. We're getting familiar with the Mimawari-gumi, and what's the deal with the Shogun, and like what are his connections. Now we know his connections better and some of the other political stuff better, so I don't know. Yeah, I expect it'll come to a head later. But anyway, yeah, the two, they're able to reunite the old guy and the courtesan, and there's a Princess Kaguya reference, and yep, that's the end of the arc.
So now that you mentioned that, I wonder if there were any connections between this and the what was the name of the character? The one from way back on like the island, and the other character who like grew old and wanted to protect. Or was that? Yeah, that was Otohime. Yeah, right? Otohime. That's what I was thinking of. But just the whole thing of like age and beauty, probably not. I think I misremembered Kaguya as Otohime, and I was like, they're the same. They're not.
Because from what I remember from the Kaguya, the movie, the studio, I think it was it a Ghibli film? I think so. I don't know. I might be misremembering. But like just comparing this to the folktale, like or from what I took from the folktale years ago, so maybe I'll have a better reading of it now, or it's published. It's it's a well-known story, so maybe there's like some good writings on it somewhere. But like Kaguya was basically too good for the world. Like, so Buddha took her to the moon, and so like to just tie this to the folklore is like the courtesan was tied to the shogun, who was a piece of shit. But it was the servant who took her to the moon, basically, which is I guess it's kind of a reversal, because he's not Buddha, he's not like a godly being, he's just a normal dude. So
okay, and that in turn has a connection to the Naruto The Last, because there's a shot of them going up to the moon, and Kaguya, ha ha.
Right. Anyway, if we're done with that arc, after that we get another manga arc. With the one guy from the start of this reading.
I feel like it was just in the last reading when I was like, oh, it was cool. It's cool that we have this character who, like, this prisoner who has a very specific context in which he can show up, and there's always a way, like, something for him to do. And then he became a manga artist, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't care.
You thought you knew, but you didn't. And then, yeah, this one I didn't care about at all. Like, the other one had some funny parts, but I was like, okay.
I mean, I guess the manga that is drawn has a dad in it, and that's familial. It's inner beauty all over again. This really is Yoshiwara Part 2.
But anyway, after that was a little chapter, or maybe two, with Sadaharu and the puppy, where he tries to help an abandoned puppy, and puppy won't eat food that he's given him.
I mean, I did like this chapter. It wasn't quite what I was expecting it to be, because it made me think of, like how Fairy Tail had like the Guild Arts chapters where it's all just like a montage. And there are other manga that we've read that have done that for like a specific character or a certain scene. Mm-hmm. And so of course this focusing on animals, I was like, oh, okay, there's like a lot of not dialogue in these chapters, so it's kind of just telling the story through the art and whatnot, and seeing the two animals interact, and I thought that was neat. But then there were cases where they were interacting with characters who talked, so not quite the same, but
I mean, I think like the one scene that definitely sticks out to me is the one where Sadaharu is like, getting a bunch of fish, and he keeps bringing more fish. It uses a lot of like in an otherwise really dense manga, those 2 pages use a lot more like negative space to kind of like highlight like the desperation of his actions, which I think was good.
Yeah.
So I didn't cry or anything, but it was good. And yeah, of course, Kintoki like pretended to be the villain, but actually was helping out, and they're all poor, so they eat dog food in contentment, so. And
you get more of like characters who don't often get to interact. You see like Sadaharu and Hijikata and the mayonnaise and Sadaharu. There's a lot of good Sadaharu faces in this this little 2-chapter stretch. There's also the stuff with Sachan, and she's like, oh, I get to be Gintoki's pet, and he's just like, okay, we can't stay here. And of course then you cut back to Katsura, and he's like, I've been on standby since the kick the can game 2 weeks ago.
He's such a good dork. That's like Katsura has the best running jokes, I feel like, where it's like, like I like seeing the way he can transform the it's not Zura, it's Katsura, like in the like this one of course didn't land the same way, but during the Kotatsu chapter where it's like apparently Zura means wig, so he's like, it's not Katsura, it's Zura because it's wig, and it's like okay. And then the one with him being on standby and lonely because he wants to join in but he won't, like actually, when you think about it, the Kick the Can game was related to the Courtesan Nation, and you mentioned, Katsura's not there, even though he's, like, invested in, like, the stability of the... He was on standby for the Kick the Can game. How can he be in the events of the arc? I don't know. I just thought about that.
I guess that is... Now that I think about it, you could read it on, like, a meta level in that way. Like, oh, why wasn't this character there? There has to be a reason they weren't there, and this is the reason. I've been on standby. And then, of course, there's the thing with Hasegawa where, like, oh, the 2 dogs are homeless, and then they walk by, and he's there sitting in the box. And it's like, okay, let's just keep walking.
Just ignore him. But yeah, it was a good couple chapters. Anyway, after that was Star Wars.
Again.
No, well, that last time was, like, Darth Vader and the Death Star. This time is Obi-Wan Kenobi and a different Death Star.
Yes.
But yeah, he's we get introduced to what's it? I remember his name. I wrote it down. Hajime. Who's like, he was a former practitioner at the... Well, like it even opens with Otai talking about the the dojo that we haven't mentioned in 40 volumes. I totally am working on that. I've not been slacking off. But, then, a former practitioner of the dojo comes in, the kind of, like, big brother figure to Shinpachi and Otai, who's also kind of like a walking corpse because he's, through cybernetic enhancements, like, his flesh body is only, like, supported by the machine part. And, of course, you kind of get, like, the whole thing with even the first chapter was the samurai soul. Like, they can't... How do they maintain a sword dojo in an era where you can't have swords? And so here Hajime comes in with like a modernized answer, the beam sword. You do a different sword style that can exist in this world. And of course Kondo and Kyubei, who are like really attached to Otai, get involved because they don't want to let this motherfucker touch her. Like they enroll with fucking bazookas and try to start shit.
No, Kyubey, don't hang around with Kondo. He's a bad influence. Stay away.
Oh, I'm just looking at the faces where it's like, we want to enroll, and like Kondo's got his mouth open, and then Kyubey's got like this devilish smile, and it's this good expression, good Kyubey face. She's like, she's gonna kill something.
I did also think though that their role in this arc, I guess, was kind of interesting because like part of Kyubey's character and like why that like potential relationship with Otai didn't work in the first place was that she wasn't really like Otai's feelings weren't really being taken into consideration. It was like all for Kyubey's sake. And so
and she was like sacrificing herself for Kyubey and not think exactly. Neither of them were considering her feelings, and well, here's where her feelings are. Yeah,
because they have that moment here where they're both like, even if it's like the object of Otai's affection or something like that, if it's not pointed at us, we'll still try to fight for that genuine smile. And it's like, if she can smile like wider with Hajime, then they'll fight for that smile. But also like he's got a lot of circumstances, and he's a bomb that will start intergalactic warfare with Earth, and they have to stop him. And then of course but he obviously doesn't want that because he like I guess he's being controlled, but then he's able to like wrest control away and control himself again. And I also like how it ends where he tells them kids cry and adults need to be able to laugh to kind of like hide the pain, and so it ends with them like crying and smiling, where before they only cried because they're like they're growing up, they're not quite adults, but they're getting there. It was good. I did also like the joke that was thrown in there where they're like, oh, he actually does need gasoline, but it was just like, no, he ate this mysterious substance. Where did you find this? And it's Otai's cooking.
And yeah, I like the duel between Hajime and Shinpachi. Trying to think if there were any other moments. I only just noticed that the aliens look like Yodas in like burglar masks. For some reason, I didn't pick up on that reading through the first time. But then like, because I recognize the Star Wars references obviously, but for some reason I didn't like look at them and get like, oh, they have like Yoda ears and obviously the masks to cover the copyright protection masks. But yeah, it was pretty good. I still think I like the Kintoki one overall a bit more, but yeah.
But yeah, this arc has also the whole thing about like the big brother dynamic and how like Gintoki is a different he is his own.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like because I remember someone like talking about that where it's like it's supposed to be a family, but they're not like. Because Gintoki is kind of like a father figure and a big brother figure like at once. But like my response to that is like, well, because it's not a blood related family, like it doesn't have to follow typical family structures because like, like a blood brother and a figurative big brother or a blood father and a figurative father are different, So like, therefore I don't have a problem with Kintoki being able to fill multiple roles because it's like, he's kind of like a big brother to Shinpachi and a father to Kagura, but it's, they're also kind of like siblings. So it's like, it's fine because they're not related. Like, and even if they were, like obviously they're not, but like, I don't know what, this is just a nameless person who I vaguely remember having this issue. And I maybe even heard it secondhand, but it's like, I just remember thinking about it. And as you brought up the big brother thing, it's like, yeah, it's fine though. They're not related. It doesn't matter.
This was also one of the cases where like the translation was kind of weird about it because like it wouldn't translate Aniki, but it would whatever the equivalent is for like little brother was translated.
That's kind of weird. Because like the scan group, I've read some other things by them. I don't know if that like how much of the staff is the same. But their translations are like let's put it this way.
I mean, I know that like there are sometimes like wordplay and stuff that can't really be translated. So like in some cases I feel like they're doing their best.
Well, and if they were doing it weekly, then they might have like started doing one thing and then not changed it when like if they'd read the whole arc, they might have decided like okay, well they reference both Big and Little Brothers, so we should just like do it this way or the other way, and instead they like did a weird thing by not I don't know like maybe I don't understand the translation process fully because I've never translated anything, but maybe there's a reason for it. I don't know. It is kind of weird though. I'm not gonna say it's not. Also, I do appreciate that they do like even if because like when like they reference Naruto and then there's like a translator note that's like this is a reference to Naruto, and like I know that, but maybe not everyone does, right? Not everyone's read Naruto, like, and maybe that's weird to us on some level, but like I think we've even talked about this where I feel it's weird when people don't know about Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Because it was so important to me. Like in 10, 20 years, maybe Naruto's not going to be the most watched or everyone's read kind of thing. So
yeah.
But they'll be like, what? How have you not heard of, My Hero Academia and Jujutsu Kaisen or Kimetsu no Yaiba, right? Like they'll feel the same way, So just changing times, I guess. So, I just thought about that when I saw the references to, or them highlighting references to things that like, how do you not know about this? Like, if you're reading Gintama, how do you not know about Naruto, right? Like, I feel like it's a popular series, but I don't know. Just a thought I had.
I guess I did also think it was cool, like when this arc sort of wrapped up. I thought the moment where Shinpachi shows up and Obi-Wan is like, "Oh, your older brother figure couldn't defeat me. What makes you think you can beat me?" And Shinpachi has that line where it's like, the only reason you're still standing is because he was trying to spare you. But so it's like. It was another case of like Gintoki taking everything onto himself and like he's gonna go and do this thing, but he wasn't strong enough to do it alone. And then like Shinpachi came in to clean up his own mess, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good stuff. I like how the next chapter started because like Kondo and Kyubei are like, oh man, haven't seen Otai in a while. Her and Shinpachi must be grieving. For like a whole month, and then they come back and it's like we just went on vacation, and like you on Hajime's life insurance. It's like you motherfuckers. I mean, at least they brought souvenirs, but also fuck you guys.
Yeah, and I like the running gag with Kyubei and Kondo, where it's like, oh, they're pushing themselves to not show their emotional. They make it look like it was just a vacation, but they just needed a place to grieve, or like, oh, the macadamia nuts are here because they're just trying to burn away their attachments to their memories of this character. And then Kondo's just like, no, you just want to eat macadamia nuts.
Right, like after a point they just have so many, and then they fucking start a sword dojo where they're passing out macadamia nuts, which just invites like a bunch of madaos, I guess, at least the one. But yeah, then it ends with like a little bit of Kintoki and Hajime being the big brother figure, and Otai smiling, good smile.
Yeah. Not the creepy, intimidating fake smile.
Right. It made me feel nice because she doesn't do that. And it was cool to see because like she was even smiling after the Yagyu arc, the Kyubei one, I remember, but it wasn't that big and wide, because she was like having fun and stuff. So like this, it gave me a nice feeling. So anyway, after that was oh damn it, I just remembered because I think there was a gag in the Courtesan Nation arc that I liked, where because Gintoki was like puppeteering the Shogun, and there was a part where like he tried to do the same thing with Hime, I think, and I thought that was funny because like he just like gets in under like her Haori coat and just like I think she was even conscious too, which made it even funnier. But maybe she wasn't, but I just remember seeing her again because this is with the watermelons and yeah, she's just this like little devil. I don't know. It was funny. I don't know. Like I guess I find it funny because she's just like a little kid who's also this like agent of mayhem when she's blindfolded, and like I don't know. It was funny.
Well, I mean, like that's kind of the joke with her character. I mean, she doesn't even need the blindfold to be an agent of mayhem. Like she's always trying to get into trouble, always trying to like sneak away, and So it is fitting that, she has the connection to Kagura, because she's just like an even smaller, more like high class Kagura.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. And she gets along with Odd Jobs really well. like she perfectly falls into their antics when they're like, let's split watermelons, and then okay, here I come, and then they're like, Gintoki and Shinpachi are buried right next to the watermelon so that their heads can get split open. It's like, yep, just as planned.
Actually, now that I think about it, it is another take of like the Shogun, lowering himself to experience the life of the people the people he's supposed to serve, and like with the princess, she's trying to. Like in her first chapter, she didn't really like want to be a princess, and there was the whole reversal of like, Kagura is the princess, and she's just kind of the average person. So I guess that's kind of still sort of carrying over, where her being very like unprincess like and trying to get into trouble and do all this stuff. It's also just like her version of like disregarding her status and just wanting to be like an average person.
Yeah, she's like more, doing it deliberately, where Shiga kind of just ends up in it. Not like, but yeah, no, yeah, it's cool and good. Anyway, after that, you mentioned already the Tama confessional, where like a bunch of people come to confess about Gintoki's wrongdoings.
This is also where, when we were watching the movie, you had mentioned the arc of Gintoki having a sword up his ass, and I was like, I guess misremembered how you told it to me, because there was the gag with the mop, and I was like, oh, is this? But then, of course, later on, it's like, oh no, it was a full-blown arc.
Yeah, we'll get to that one. But anyway, yeah, like it turns into like a whole like conspiracy with the Shogun possibly being dead, and so Gintoki has like Gintoki's like piecing together the mystery by hearing everyone's accounts, and it turns out he's fine, of course. Like the Shogun goes into the confessional, and yep, that happened. Oh, that's right. No, and then it goes into a different arc.
Yeah,
because the Shogun lost his memory, and then so Katsura recruits him into the fucking terrorists that want to bring down the shogunate. And it turns out he's like a better terrorist than he is a shogun. Like he keeps beating Katsura at all the dumb games that they do because he's insecure and about his like charisma. So yeah, that happened.
Yeah, I remember. I thought I had more to say on this as far as, because I did like what it did as far as like drawing the connection between Katsura and the Shogun, and how like both as leaders, and how that's where my memory is just like not working.
Well, like this,
because it did a cool thing, like themes wise.
I mean, we're getting to the part where my brain just like didn't want to, like, because I even told you, like, because you were talking to me about how you were having problems reading, and you also tweeted about it a bit. But like I told you that I had problems reading a bit, and we're getting towards those parts where I was just like, that was a chapter. That was a chapter. Like I'm skimming through the one where they like made a poster advertising the Yorozuya, and I legitimately have nothing to say about it. Like there were some gags that were fine, but it was a chapter. Then after that, it was like a history thing where Tsukio's like a teacher, but so the kid whose name I don't remember goes to learn history from and everyone else is stupid too. Yeah, that happened.
Yeah, I was still kind of combing through the thing with the
Shogun,
because like I thought there was a particular thing that I was like, oh, I guess it was like how the jokes of him, how like he's almost always like ending up naked somehow, and so it's like, oh, something about like not showing weakness to others, but he was willing to just like bear all of his weakness and everything. And so it's like, the comedy wrapping back into the message.
No, you're right. I did
it doesn't like doesn't make me enjoy those jokes anymore. But I at least like I get it.
Yeah, no, that was a good little part to that exchange. I also didn't think about, or I didn't think about it rather.
And I'm also like now catching up. The thing.
Go ahead.
The history chapter probably, I would imagine, appeals more to people who are aware of the culture and are aware of the history, and so like they understand what's getting changed about it, and that you can have the context to appreciate it. And there's really the best thing that this chapter does for Tsukuyo wears a pair of glasses, so it's like, yeah.
She becomes a glasses girl and everything is all right in the world. And speaking of glasses girls, Sachan like installed a mirror so that she could spy on Gintoki, and they like fuck with her by making her see all these like unfortunate like horrible things.
Yeah.
And that happened.
I did also like the mini joke in there where it's like Kagura has a tail, and it's like that's how she braided her hair with the tail, and it's like, what?
And of course it's a Dragon Ball reference because she rips it off and just yells Kakarot, like what? She's so dumb. But yeah, it was a chapter, and then after that was the Kagura's dad, because Kagura's getting married, or she found a boyfriend rather, and so you have her father figures losing their minds.
Yeah, so I did already kind of mention it earlier, but how it does kind of connect as far as like the familial stuff about like the big brother chapters with Shinpachi's family, the Shimuras. That's their other name.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to guess that or remember that. So that you remembered at all was cool. Oh yeah, and there's also like Attack on Titan references because I guess that would have been popular around this time.
Wait, when?
Attack in the with Kagura's her boyfriend. The translation notes mentioned like Attack on Titans and like just the fact that they're like a race of giants. Like there's no specific like visual reference. It's mostly in the dialogue.
That's probably why I didn't notice, because I tend to just skip over the translator's notes unless I feel like I didn't get this. What is this saying? But now that you like say that, I'm like, oh, they're giants, so I get it.
Right. It's kind of similar to like the Monkey Hunter arc, where it's like it's a Monster Hunter reference in that they're fighting monsters, like just the simplest way possible. Like this is an Attack on Titan reference in that they are big giants, and that it uses like I think there was even some of the translation that's like it's Attack of Titans or something like they're referencing the title, and presumably because I think that I would assume that the original Japanese was using like the specific like Shingeki no Kyo, at some point. Like just referencing the title directly, but in the dialogue, like organically almost, or in appearance or organically.
Yeah, I guess that is just kind of another case of getting to the point where it's like my brain is fried on Gintama, so things it's like right in my face, and I'm just like not seeing it.
But yeah, they fight.
I'm too busy making jokes about how like Kagura's like, oh, I don't really get this love stuff, and I'm like, a romantic Kagura, let's go.
But yeah, anyway, the boyfriend wanted to keep her all for himself, and where the father, like, the Gintoki and Kagura's dad were very, or Umibozu, he has a name. I was like, I forgot. Like they, were willing to at least see him and, consider the relationship, but he's being, possessive, so they're like, nah, fuck that, and also wanted to destroy the world. And it ends in one of those just weird like what the fuck Gintama ways.
It's a father complex, because the whole arc was about fatherhood and being a good dad, and so at the end the character is like, oh, I'm into fathers are really amazing,
and they're just like, oh god, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna just move on, not think about it. Anyway, the next one was, ninjas. Well, see, and this one I actually, like, realized, like, oh, there's something here. Because, like, we brought, like, Hattori before, we had a line comparing samurai to ninjas, where how samurai are, like, loyal dogs, but ninjas have kind of, like, they just do what they need to survive. And so, like, the idea of ninja licenses being, like, really easy to obtain, like, a driver's license compared to, like, the really intense training that they're supposed to be is, like, they're heavily conforming to the modern age, right? Where instead of doing this, like, highly trained, thing, they're just like, yeah, just sign here. Like, because the ninjas don't have that same integrity, they're just more easily able to just for something like this to happen. Or they have this goofy ninja driving exam. So I just noticed that I was reading. I was like, oh yeah, hey.
That's pretty neat. I was mainly just like, aha, the Naruto references. They're here. Genin exam, Chunin exam,
right.
Jonin, Rasengan, chakra. It's all here, baby.
Yep. And after that is the arc where Kintoki gets a sword stuck in his ass. And this, I fell asleep twice. There was stuff going on here. I definitely didn't like absorb any of it. Like I viewed the arc, but I didn't necessarily read it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like I absorbed, I looked at the dialogue and I understood what was happening, but I just didn't think beyond that. I'm just like, yep, this sure is an arc. Well, and I think maybe what part of it was like the tone of it, like, because there's like the guy who's like he's controlled by a demon sword, but then he just kept getting like the shit kicked that like he like you know, he wasn't much of a presence when Okita just kept beating the shit out of him every time, and like it just, I don't know, I don't know, it was an arc. And what did you think of it? Say something.
Kagura had an eye patch. Was that a Joe reference again?
Is Kyubey a Joe reference? Eye patches are just Ashton Joe references now. No, it's a...
Yeah, I mean, what do you want me to say? Gintoki, he had a sword stuck up his ass.
Well, at least you can understand why I thought about this chapter specifically when in the movie, when at the end I think Okita was involved in this arc, and he stuck his sword up Hijikatsu's ass at the end of the movie, and so my mind flashed to this arc. You know, I had post-traumatic stress disorder breakdown. No, that's not what happened, but like I did think about it. Like, because it's like a Gintama thing. Like, if it wasn't a reference, that's understandable, and it was too like non-specific. Like, again, it was only the fact that Okita did it that made me think about the arc, and also that I just read it. So, yeah, I really don't have any more to say.
A Berserk reference, Final Fantasy reference.
Tales, right? No, that's the next chapter where video games and Dragon Quest references, Resident Evil.
Now we're just stringing words together.
I'm just saying words. Well, I'm just funny. I don't know. And well, after that was I did think it was weird because like this is where I was the one. I think this is the last part of the reading. So we get like the old guy who was like who was used as like a standing Gintoki actually has this like sad backstory where he's like he just doesn't have his memory. His daughter you know, has been like trying to find him, and she's the person in the ramen shop that Katsura went to and asked for soba the one time, and I think we maybe saw it one time after that. And I'm just like, you know, maybe if I was a bit of a better mindset to enjoy this, because like I was finishing the Gintama reading, I just finished the sword arc, and I was kind of like done, and maybe like, you know, again, if there are ideas that link together in those old chapters, but I'm just also kind of like, why connect these two characters? Like, were there little bits of foreshadowing in those chapters? Maybe not. I don't remember, because I struggle to remember more important things. Like, I don't know. I was just I don't know. What did you think about these chapters?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I was burned out. Maybe it's about time for the Gintama hiatus arc where we just take some time off. And we come back with our time skip redesigns,
and it turns out it's a parasite, and it's trying to take over humanity, and it's like, well, fuck. Who's gonna stop? Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping, you know, if anyone cares to spend the time, you know, which I do appreciate to you know, point out stuff that we didn't, I do always appreciate it, especially because, like, I think we are just getting a little bit of Gintama burnout, because, like, this is what our second or third 70 chapter reading in a row. And we're going to follow it with a 60 chapter reading, and then it'll level out a little bit for a couple readings, and then it's another 70 chapter one, but that's like the last arc. So, you know, cool. And then it's the last reading. Yeah.
The movie was pretty all right, though.
Yeah, it was fun. I liked it a little bit more than you. I think I liked it more than any of... my favorite arc this stretch was Gintama, and I liked it more than Gintama, so I guess I liked it more than this reading. Which, you know, is generally, like, considered pretty high praise for anime original stuff, because, well, especially in the comics communities that really care about that stuff, they're focused on like shonen filler, where it's like, oh, G8, it's better than Davy Back fight in One Piece, so therefore it's really good filler. And I'm like, I haven't rewatched it, but I don't think that's true. But I also really like Davy Back fight. But anyway, so next time, chapters 434 to 501.
At least I know that in the next reading, almost right off the bat, there's going to be something that maybe I will hate it, but at least I will be like, I've been interested to check it out.
Oh, does it start off? Okay. If it's the arc I told you about, then
yeah, I looked up the chapter numbers, and it's like almost right off the bat.
Okay. I'm looking for, even if we don't like it, like it should be interesting to talk about, right? Like that's what I would think. So, but anyway, all right. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
I was very tempted to do like a gag of when you got to like the sword arc, that I would just like get up and like walk out the door and just like leave the podcast. But I didn't do it.